Hi, welcome to another episode of Innovation Minutes Live, where we talk about this week's innovation trends in around 10 minutes or less.
Yeah, and this week we're talking about transportation, cars, how we get around and commute. And this is a topic that I have become very interested in as time goes on, especially because I'm one of the only people I know that's an adult that's never owned a car. Um,
Yeah.
and I
Definitely the only person I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I've lived in cities, but I've lived in multiple cities. So it's not just, a New York thing. I've been able to do it in cities in California also. And not that long ago, that would have been nearly impossible to do in
Mhm.
California.
Yeah, especially back before the major ride sharing platforms. Zipcar I think was kind of a step in the right direction, but when Uber and Lyft really started to take hold, that I think really kind of changed the dynamic of it.
Yeah, I mean there's been so much incredible innovation and it's interesting because of course, you know, Uber's been in the news a lot lately for
This
for
year, yeah.
not so great reasons, but the concept that they're working with, I think we can agree is I think the trajectory that we're on collectively, culturally, I think globally. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you look at what's been happening just this past week with Alphabet, and then well, they're basically facing two separate lawsuits, IP lawsuits, targeting their core, AI driving platform and things that surround that, and it kind of just speaks to right now people don't know Uber as an AI driving platform, but if you think about what they're doing, all of these issues they're having with their drivers and collective bargaining and full time versus part time in Uber's master plan, you have to recognize that those are all going to go away because they're just collecting data right now. They're using their drivers to collect data for a future that's driven by AI, and that really kind of speaks to the larger issue that I think we're seeing a lot of people start to take a lot of interest in this space. I think Ford, even just in the last couple of weeks, acquired a big AI company because they
Mhm.
want to kind of push in that direction as well.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to an earlier conversation we had in a different episode about sort of working ourselves out of a job as well.
Mhm.
Kind of the
Mhm.
invasion of robots and AI and a company like Uber or Lyft, we have to believe that in the next X number of years, the drivers are going to become obsolete. And right now, they're a huge part of those companies. And so, the question is, will anyone really want to own cars? Will it be something? Will people be commuting in their own cars in 10,
Mhm.
20 years?
Yeah. Yeah, and I would think if you're somebody like Ford, you have to be thinking about this, right? Because your business right now is predicated on people purchasing cars and doing it often and spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
But in the future, if you have a intelligent car that you don't actually drive, that you just kind of takes you somewhere and then goes and parks itself and then picks you up, is that really your car? And is that something that's worth owning, or is that more of a subscription service?
Right. Right. I mean, I don't. The reasons that I don't want to own a car are so many. I don't want to deal with the insurance and the maintenance and I don't want to park. I hate to actually drive. So I couldn't be happier about how things
Yeah.
are evolving. But I know that everyone doesn't necessarily share that sentiment. And it's interesting because we've done work with different automobile companies and the prevailing mentality, it's not uniform. You have the Teslas of the world. And then you have other car companies that in some ways still are kind of in denial of, about where we're moving.
Yeah, and it's interesting because a lot of those car companies, specifically the ones that traffic high volume, kind of boring consumer, like just cars that get you from point A to point B, those are the ones that should be most worried by these trends, right?
Yeah,
If you're a niche sports car manufacturer, you probably don't need to worry about this too
right.
much. But if you're somebody like Honda or Toyota,
Yeah.
and your best selling vehicle is an appliance, then you should be really worried, and you should have a plan for this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and to not be paying attention, the Teslas of the world are going to catch up to you sooner than later. I think a lot of these concepts around driverless cars and AI and not owning vehicles, we thought of that not so long ago as something in the very distant future. It's like Jetsons level stuff, you know? And we're seeing this come rapidly. I think sooner than a lot of people anticipated.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. And I think that's being driven by a lot of things, but primarily by a lot of these Silicon Valley companies really diving into this in a way that they haven't before. You know, and it's really just it's a culmination of a lot of different technologies, you know, kind of hitting this critical point at the same time. But Silicon Valley's pushing it, and now the big auto manufacturers are taking it more seriously. So it's going to continue to accelerate. And if you don't have a plan for it, you better find one.
Well, and also I think so. There's, you know, it's how it affects these industries and these companies, but from a sociological perspective, think about how all of this changes our lives and the way we live, whether it's freeing up time or resources or any number of things. I mean, we are going to start, we already are starting to live differently as a result of these changes. And that then has a ripple effect on other industries as well.
Yeah, and I think the bigger question, and maybe this is a good topic for next week, is, you know, if your time is freed up so that your commute is either, you know, moved to a point where it's just kind of leisure time where you're sitting in a car the entire time and you're able to work, or if everything becomes more efficient because of these changes and your commute is less, you know, what do you do with that free time? Is that now time that's owned by the company you work for? Is it time that you can take back for yourself and you know, treat as more leisure time? So these are all kind of societal big issue impact things.
Yeah, exactly. And we want to hear what changes you're already feeling and participating in around this topic. Maybe you're like me and don't own a car or want to get rid of your car, but find us in the comments and let us know your thoughts. And we'll talk again next week.
See you next week.